I never thought I'd reach 70. The years slipped by like water through my fingers. One moment I was 20, full of dreams and endless energy. The next, I was waking up in a body that whispers different stories each morning. Time has become my most cherished companion now. Not an enemy to fight against, but a friend who reminds me to savor every moment. When I was younger, I treated time like an endless resource, spending it freely on empty conversations and relationships that led nowhere. Now I understand its true value. Every morning, I sit with my coffee and watch the sunrise. The warmth of the cup in my hands, the gentle awakening of the world, these simple moments have become my daily ritual. I've learned that life isn't measured by how many people surround you or how busy your calendar looks. It's measured by how deeply you experience each moment. I've become selective about where I spend my time. A quiet conversation with someone who truly understands me holds more value than a dozen superficial social gatherings. It's not about being antisocial, it's about being intentional. When you realize your time is finite, you learn to invest it wisely. This understanding doesn't bring sadness. Instead, it brings a profound peace. I no longer feel guilty about saying no to events that don't align with my values. I've stopped explaining myself when I choose solitude over socializing. The relationships I maintain now are deeper, more meaningful. They're chosen, not obligatory. As I've grown older, I've watched relationships transform like seasons. Some friendships deepen like old wine, enriched by shared memories and silent understanding. Others fade quietly, like autumn leaves drifting away on the wind. At 70, I've learned to accept that not every relationship is meant to last forever, and there's a gentle wisdom in that understanding. In my younger years, I was a collector of relationships. I gathered friends, colleagues, and acquaintances like precious stones, believing that more connections meant a fuller life. I was the one who remembered every birthday, attended every celebration, and tried to keep everyone happy. It was exhausting, though I didn't realize it then. Life has a natural way of pruning our social garden. People move away, change directions, or simply grow apart. I used to take these losses personally, wondering what I could have done differently. Now I understand that some people are in our lives for a reason, others for a season, and a precious few for a lifetime. The most profound change, though, has been in myself. I'm not the same person I was at 40, or even 60. Like a well-worn book, my pages tell different stories now. I value authenticity over popularity, peace over excitement, and quality over quantity in my relationships. I've learned that being there for everyone doesn't make you a better friend, it often makes you a depleted one. Some lessons came through heartache, trust betrayed, loyalty unreturned, kindness taken for granted. Each disappointment left its mark, but also taught me how to set boundaries, recognize red flags, and value my own well-being. Now I choose to spend time with people who lift my spirit, not those who drain it. Trust changes as you age, like a river carving new paths through familiar terrain. At 70, I've learned that trust isn't simply given or taken, it's earned slowly, like morning light creeping across the floor. In my younger days, I trusted easily, believing in the inherent goodness of everyone I met. Life has taught me to be more discerning. I've experienced betrayal in ways I never expected. The business partner who chose profit over principles. The friend who was there only when they needed something. The family member who slowly drifted away without explanation. Each experience left its mark, not as scars but as lessons written in the margins of my life's book. When someone new enters my life now, I find myself watching and waiting. Not out of bitterness or fear, but from a place of quiet wisdom. It's like testing the temperature of water before stepping in, a natural caution born from experience. Some might call it cynicism. I call it self-preservation. Yet even with this careful approach, I haven't lost faith in humanity entirely. There are still moments that restore my trust: the neighbor who checks on me during storms, the stranger who helps without being asked, the old friend who remains steadfast through decades. These moments remind me that while trust may be harder to give now, it's still possible to find people worthy of it. Trust, I've learned, is like a garden. You can't simply plant it and expect it to flourish. It needs constant tending, careful observation, and sometimes, painful pruning. At 70, I've become a more careful gardener, choosing wisely where to plant my trust, knowing that the most beautiful blooms often come from the most carefully tended gardens. At 70, I find myself living in a world that feels like a different planet from the one I knew in my youth. It's not just the technology or the pace of change, it's the very fabric of human connection that has transformed. Sometimes I sit in my favorite chair, watching the world through my window, and wonder about the warmth we seem to have lost along the way. I remember a time when neighbors were more than just people who shared a fence line. They were extended family who brought soup when you were sick, watched your children without being asked, and stopped by for coffee just because. We didn't need invitations or appointments. Friendship wasn't scheduled, it simply happened, like morning dew on grass. Today's world moves at a different rhythm. Everyone seems to be running, though I'm not always sure toward what. Conversations have become shorter, more fragmented, like birds darting between trees. Even family gatherings feel different, faces illuminated by phone screens rather than just the warm glow of conversation and laughter. Don't misunderstand me, I appreciate the miracles of modern technology. Being able to see my grandchildren's faces on a video call is a gift I never imagined possible in my youth. But there's something missing in these digital connections, like trying to warm your hands on a painted fire. We can see each other, but we can't feel the warmth of physical presence, the comfort of a hand on your shoulder. The values seem to have shifted too. In my day, a person's word was their bond, and reputation was built on kindness and reliability rather than the number of followers or likes. We measured success not by what we acquired, but by the depth of our relationships and the strength of our character. Sometimes I wonder if in gaining the world, we've lost something precious of ourselves. When I was younger, an empty house felt like an empty heart. Silence seemed like something to fill, not something to treasure. But at 70, I've discovered a profound truth: solitude is as different from loneliness as a garden is from a desert. One nurtures while the other depletes. In my solitude, I've found a richness I never knew existed. It's in the quiet moments when the morning light paints shadows on my wall, in the peaceful ritual of brewing my morning coffee, in the gentle turning of pages in a beloved book. These moments aren't empty, they're full of life, just a different kind of life than I used to seek. People often ask if I get lonely. They see my preference for quiet evenings at home and worry about isolation. But there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. In my solitude, I found a companion I never truly knew before myself. And she's quite interesting company, full of stories, memories, and wisdom I never had time to acknowledge when I was younger and busier. This doesn't mean I've become a hermit. I still cherish the laughter of my grandchildren, the warm embrace of old friends, the meaningful conversations that stretch into evening hours. But these interactions feel richer now because they're chosen, not pursued out of fear of being alone. When I do spend time with others, I'm fully present, not halfway out the door seeking the next social fix. Solitude has taught me something precious: peace isn't found in the noise of the world but in the quiet of your own heart. In these silent moments, I've learned to hear my own thoughts, to understand my own needs, to appreciate my own company. It's a gift that took 70 years to unwrap, but one I wouldn't trade for all the parties in the world. After 7 decades of living, my choice to avoid certain people isn't born from bitterness, it's harvested from wisdom. Like a farmer who knows which crops to plant and which to leave fallow, I've learned to be selective about the company I keep. This isn't a story of withdrawal, it's one of careful curation. For most of my life, I was everyone's go-to person. The one who always said yes, who showed up at every event, who carried others' burdens as if they were feathers. I gave my time and energy freely, believing that being needed was the same as being valued. Life, with its patient teaching, showed me otherwise. I've learned that some relationships are like water, they nourish and sustain you. Others are like quicksand, the more you struggle to maintain them, the deeper you sink. I've been betrayed by those I trusted, drained by those who saw my kindness as weakness, and disappointed by those who took more than they gave. Each experience was a lesson written in invisible ink, only becoming readable with time's gentle heat. Now, I choose carefully. I avoid the drama makers, the energy takers, those who speak much but listen little. I step away from relationships that feel like performance art, where every interaction must follow a script of social expectations. Instead, I treasure those rare souls who can sit in comfortable silence, who show up without being asked, who understand that friendship isn't about quantity of time but quality of presence. This selective approach has given me something precious, peace. My world may be smaller now, but it's deeper, richer, more authentic. The conversations I have matter. The relationships I maintain flourish. And my heart, no longer stretched thin trying to be everything to everyone, has found its natural rhythm. Sometimes, in the quiet of evening, I wonder if others my age feel the same way. Do they too find themselves becoming more selective with their time and energy? Do they also feel this gentle pull toward authenticity, away from the social obligations that once seemed so important? I spent decades of my life trying to meet others' expectations, being the perfect friend, the reliable neighbor, the always available shoulder to lean on. Like an actor in a long-running play, I performed these roles without questioning whether they truly suited me. Now, at 70, I've finally learned to step off the stage and be myself. Perhaps you've noticed similar changes in your own life. Maybe you've found yourself naturally drifting away from superficial connections, seeking instead the depth of meaningful relationships. Maybe you've started to value your own company more, discovering that solitude isn't something to fear but to embrace. This journey of self-discovery isn't always easy. Sometimes it means watching old friendships fade, like photographs left too long in the sun. Sometimes it means saying no to invitations you would have once accepted without hesitation. But there's a freedom in this letting go, a peace in choosing to live authentically. If you recognize yourself in these words, know that you're not alone. This shift isn't a sign of becoming antisocial or difficult, it's a natural evolution, like a tree growing deeper roots rather than wider branches. It's about quality over quantity, depth over breadth, and truth over pretense. At 70, I've come to see life not as a series of endings, but as a collection of new beginnings. Each morning brings fresh possibilities, not diminished ones. Like a book whose later chapters hold the deepest wisdom, this stage of life carries its own unique beauty and truth. When you're young, life feels like a race against time, always rushing, always reaching for the next achievement, the next milestone. But now, I've learned to move at nature's pace. Like a river that knows its course, I flow with intention rather than urgency. There's a profound difference between the two. This chapter is about simplicity, finding joy in the morning light streaming through my window, savoring the first sip of tea, watching birds build their nests in spring. These aren't small pleasures, they're the very essence of life. I've learned that happiness isn't in the grand gestures but in these quiet moments of awareness. Reflection has become my daily companion, not with regret but with gratitude. Looking back on my life's tapestry, I see now how every experience, even the painful ones, wove together to create something beautiful. The triumphs and failures, the loves and losses, all of it mattered, all of it taught me something valuable. There's a freedom in this stage of life that I never expected, freedom from others' expectations, freedom from the need to prove myself, freedom to simply be. I no longer feel compelled to wear masks or play roles. Like an old tree that's weathered many storms, I stand firmly in who I am, my roots deep in the soil of self-acceptance. At 70, life has taught me that true wealth isn't measured in possessions but in moments of genuine connection and peace. Like a well-tended garden that finally bears its sweetest fruit, these years have brought their own special harvest of wisdom and contentment. My choice to be more selective with my time and energy isn't about closing doors, it's about opening the right ones. It's about choosing paths that lead to peace rather than paths that lead to unnecessary noise. Quality has become my compass, guiding me toward what truly matters. To those walking a similar path, know that there's profound beauty in this stage of life. It's okay to let go of what no longer serves you. It's okay to choose solitude over shallow socializing. It's okay to prioritize your peace. These aren't acts of selfishness, they're acts of self-respect. We're often told that aging means diminishment, but I've found the opposite to be true. Yes, our physical abilities may change, but our capacity for joy, understanding, and authentic living only deepens. Like a fine wine that develops complex notes over time, we too become richer in our own way. Life at 70 isn't about looking back with regret or forward with anxiety. It's about being present in each moment, appreciating the simple gifts each day brings. It's about understanding that every stage of life has its own purpose and beauty. This is our time to live fully, deeply, and authentically, not according to others' expectations, but according to our own wisdom and truth.